Hey, Bort, come here. Come here, boy. Yes, father. Hey, Bort, it's time for another VHS roundup. Don't eat my pants. Why, you little grr. That's right, it's time for another VHS roundup. 5 tapes, buddy cop edition, mostly. And the first one, I know you're all going, "Oh man, what's the first one? What's the first out of 5? I can't. I'm so ready for it." And it's another 48 hours. Another 48 hours. That would be the second one in the well, what's one less than a trilogy where there's only 2 movies? And that would anyway. So it's the second one. The first one's 48 hours. Nick Nolte, Eddie Murphy. I love this movie. This is great, and 48 Hours is good as well. This one, Nick Nolte's main thing is to be like, "Arr, arr, arr, you son of a bitch," and Eddie Murphy's going. That was kind of his signature laugh at the time during the Beverly Hills Cop movies and this one as well. He is a convict who is in jail, and that's the case in the first one as well for stealing something, I don't know. And Nick Nolte's like, "I need to get you out for one more case, you son of a bitch." And then he does, and Eddie Murphy's like, "Where's my money? You stole my money from in the first one. Do you remember that? Do you remember in the first one how you didn't give me my money that I was asking for?" And so they go on an adventure again. If you can believe that. I love how the tagline is "The boys are back in town," because they are. And this one is just a bunch of hijinks and fun and explosive craziness, and it's just a real good one. Better than ever, says Joel Siegel at WABC TV New York. And that's about enough about that. Another 48 hours. Great movie. Eddie Murphy again in another sequel, Beverly Hills Cop II. So okay, you're going, okay, Josh, yeah, I've heard of Beverly Hills. I've heard of Cops. I've heard of the first Beverly Hills Cop movie. Now you're telling me there's a second one, and now you're telling me there's a third one, and now you're telling me there's a fourth one that Netflix is making, I guess, that's gonna suck. And maybe it won't suck, but probably it will. And so anyway, Beverly Hills Cop, best of the trilogy. I'm gonna make that proclamation because this one's freaking fun. This one's like Scooby-Doo and the Gang. This one has got Beverly Hills Cop, back at it. Eddie Murphy, back in one of his best roles ever. And this movie is just, it's fun. It's well written. It's got a well-rounded plot. It's got Judge Reinhold, and who's the other guy who is in this? I don't know. John Ashton, I think it is. It's kind of like Scooby and the Gang. Did I say that already? There's a sort of trio of folks who have to go on this adventure together, and they all play a key role, and that's sort of a very satisfying equation as a plot. That's sort of a very satisfying sort of way to do it. So anyway, this one is so much fun. It takes the good parts of the original and sort of ups the ante in a way that the third one just didn't have the same charm, didn't have the same effectiveness or draw. And Eddie Murphy is back doing his like sort of laugh, which and everyone in the theater at the time was just losing their minds. They're like, he did it again. He did the laugh, the freaking laugh. Eddie Murphy. Beverly Hills Cop, great film, directed by Tony Scott, brother of Ridley Scott. Ridley Scott. Tony Scott's dead now, though, but I mean, he's not living through coronavirus, so who's better off? Then we got, okay, everybody calm down. We have Midnight Run. Now this is a little gem of a movie. Another fun sort of, not precisely a buddy cop movie, but certainly a buddy movie. Robert De Niro has to go get Charles Grodin, who has stolen a bunch of money from very high up wealthy people, and Charles Grodin is kind of like an OCD, very, very stressed out, anxious person. Or towards the end, it's like, oh, is he putting that on actually to just be sort of a pain in the ass to old Robbie De Niro? And this is a fun, sprawling adventure. It's kind of a road trip movie, and Robert De Niro is the classic tough guy of the '80s who's like, OCD doesn't exist. Why don't you calm down, you pussy? What is this? What you got you got some mental problems? Those don't exist. And that's sort of like a flawless Robert De Niro deal. And as you can see, he's carrying Charles Grodin, so that just sort of sets you up for the sort of hijinks you're gonna get in Midnight Run. So anyway, this is a fun movie. It's a good one, I would say. Charles Grodin, what happened to him? He had sort of a rivalry with Johnny Carson. Don't know if you know about this. Every time Charles Grodin, this actor who was he was in Clifford, he was in a number of things in the 80s and 90s, and then disappeared. And he had sort of this rivalry with Johnny Carson, where every time, you can look it up on YouTube, every time he would appear on Johnny Carson, it was like the Jimmy Kimmel Matt Damon thing, just sort of a weird, like, is this a joke, or do these guys hate each other? So anyway, Midnight Run, directed by Martin Brest, who, oh my gosh, I didn't plan this. Martin Brest directed the first Beverly Hills Cop, so that's kind of a nice little pin to stick in your hat. And the fourth one on the list is Tango Cash. This movie is insane. This movie is unbelievable. It's wonderful. It's so silly. Two powerhouse tough boys with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone. At the time, both pretty at the top of their game. Except Sylvester Stallone wears glasses in this one, which is kind of interesting. It's like they had to nerd him up just a tiny bit. But this movie, so there's different, subsets of buddy cop movies. There's different subsets of action movies. And in some of them, the heroes can get injured and hurt, and the heroes are susceptible. In this one, these guys are fucking invincible. They're the two toughest cops, the top cops in LA, one on the east side, one on the west side, and they have this sort of friendly, jabby, tough guy rivalry with each other. They go to prison together, and they're not concerned whatsoever with being in prison. They're just like, hey, guess a lot of these guys kind of don't like us or something. And they just waltz through prison, no problem. And they're so confident in their own security and their own sort of muscular ability to fend for themselves that they're just like, yeah, prison, no problem. The fact that we got framed for something, or however it goes, no problem. They're not worried about it. And they break out of prison and they confront the bad guy who framed them and put them there with a tank. A tank. It makes no sense. In the opening scene, Sylvester Stallone confronts a semi with a handgun. He stands in the middle of the road and takes down a semi by playing chicken. Anyway, it's a great movie. It's so silly. Great music. Lots of ridiculous one-liners, and just kind of like this ultra high polish magical reality where tough guys rule and they're invincible and they never get hurt. And this movie is so much fun. So I'd highly recommend it. And that one, since everyone's screaming, who's the director? Andrei Konchalovsky. Oh boy. And they're gonna have my ass for that one. So the last one on our list, folks, and everybody calm down, is going to be Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry 2, essentially, which is Magnum Force. Another sequel. Okay, third sequel, Josh. All right. Kind of leaning into the sequels here. Anyway, this is the best Dirty Harry film. Again, takes the best elements of the first film, cranks them up a notch. Clint's going up against some crooked cops, folks. There's 4 of them. They're gone rogue. There's some motorcycle battles. And he takes them all down because he's fucking Clint Eastwood. And so he takes them all down and it's no problem and he kills them. So anyway, that's a good movie, and everybody have a nice day. And that's the VHS roundup for today.